You know who it is, everybody. I am back once again with another video. Today I'm giving you 6 tips on what to do when you find out that you're pregnant. Girl, you know you're cute. So as of today, I'm officially 28 weeks pregnant at the time of this filming. I can't believe it. I'm in my 3rd trimester. I'm sweating like a pig because the AC ain't really kicked in yet. Anyway, I was thinking back for video ideas on like what I've gone through this pregnancy journey. And one thing I realized is when I first, very first found out that I was pregnant, I had no clue what to do next. Before then, I thought maybe it would be kind of intuitive. You just kind of know what to do. But I just drew a complete blank. Like, what do I do now? So having experienced that confusion, I figured it would be a great idea to share a few tips from one first-time mom to another on what to do when you first find out that you're pregnant. All right, so tip number 1, or like the very first thing that you should do when you find out you're pregnant, is schedule a doctor's appointment. Now, I would imagine for most people, you already have an OBGYN that you're familiar with and comfortable with. If you're more like me, you move around a lot, maybe not. I didn't have a doctor at all. I had just moved to Texas like a few months prior. So you can either schedule with, the doctor that you're familiar with, or if you're like me and didn't have a doctor, find one. Now, this could potentially be the most stressful part, at least for me. I kind of struggle with this part as far as finding a doctor, but we'll get into that later. Now, I've heard that it kind of varies depending on your doctor, but for my doctor, she preferred scheduling an appointment around the 8-week mark. I've heard that a lot of other doctors do that too. And the reason for that is because if they do like an ultrasound or look for a heart rate before the 8 weeks, they may not find it. And you know what happens then? You start freaking out thinking that you might have miscarried or something. So to avoid all that, I'm imagining that's why they do this. Some doctors prefer to wait until you're at least 8 weeks to do your initial prenatal visit. Some things you can expect from your visit. Again, this varies depending on the doctor from what I hear. For me, I went to the doctor. They took a urine sample, I believe. Yeah, they took a urine sample, took my weight, my blood pressure, and then I had an ultrasound where I got to see my little chicken nugget. That's the first image I got of my baby, and I got to hear his heart rate, his heartbeat. So that was like, oh my God, this is real. Like, I almost cried. But yeah, that's what happened on my first visit. Again, it can vary depending on your doctor. Another thing I thought that was kind of weird and kind of caught me off guard, I found out later when they sent me my test results that they did a drug screening. I don't have a problem doing a drug screening because I don't do drugs. And I definitely am not about to do any drugs while I'm pregnant. What I didn't like about that is that it seemed kind of presumptive. I was like, well, maybe this is routine. But either way, it's like it was the only test that I wasn't told I was going to be given. So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But it is what it really rubbed me the wrong way when I got a bill for it. Because it's like, how y'all going to charge me for a test that I need? I could have told you I wasn't on drugs. Step 2, I would suggest getting prenatal vitamins. Actually, that might be kind of backwards. I got my prenatals before my first visit because, like I said, it was a whole month before I had that first visit. And I just knew in the meantime, prenatals are something that is recommended that you take. So I would get a prenatal. I started out taking, I believe it's called Baby and Me 2. I will have links to everything I mentioned in this video in the description box. But my first prenatal was like a pill. I think I had to take 2 a day, and they were pretty easy for me to take. I didn't have any problems with them until the nausea kicked in. So once the nausea kicked in and I just got to the point where there's no way I could swallow these pills because they are kind of big, I switched over to the Smarty Pants gummies. I got them from Target. You probably can get them on Amazon and a bunch of other places. And those are great. They were kind of like a nice little treat. The only thing I didn't like about those is I had to take 4. But because they're gummies, it's kind of like, a nice little snack. But after a while, with this pregnancy, I haven't really been enjoying sweets as much. It's gotten better as I've progressed through my pregnancy. But early on, the sweets were kind of a no-go. But somehow I managed to stick with the Smarty Pants until they ran out and my local Target stopped selling them. So I switched back to the Baby and Me, which has been going great. The difference between those two is the Smarty Pants, I don't think it has any iron in it, which I've been fine so far. I haven't been anemic when they test my blood and everything, so everything's been good with that. A lot of women do get anemic during pregnancy, so to avoid that, you might prefer to do the baby and me, or something that has iron in it. The gummies do not. Next thing you want to do is start thinking about your birthing plan and what kind of birthing experience you want to have. Now, some people I know are just like, I don't want to give this too much thought. Whatever is going to get this baby here healthy and happy, keep me safe, I'm good. And you know, most people just go the traditional route, hospital, whatever the doctor say. That's fine, I'm not judging that. Being the control freak Virgo that I am, I wanted to have a little more say in my experience. So it has been kind of stressful trying to decide how, like, whether I'm gonna go the doctor route, the midwife. In the beginning, I wanted a home birth, but I figured since this is my first and I live on the 3rd floor, it might not be the best idea to have a home birth here. And plus, by the time I got through my first trimester, I was so sick of this apartment. There was just nothing but bad memories here of me being sick and nauseous. I did not want to labor in this space. So that was out the window pretty quickly. I visited a birth center, which was cool, but a lot of the birth centers, like, they just don't have the vibe that, like, it doesn't feel homey to me. So it's like, if it's still not gonna feel like home, I might as well be at a hospital, right? My initial and semi-current OB, there were things I liked about the doctor's office. Like, for example, the lady who did the, I forget what you call the people who take your blood, phenomenal. Best experience I've ever had giving blood, because I have rolling veins apparently, and a lot of people struggle to get blood out of me. And I've just always been terrible with giving blood, but she made it like seamless, easy. I didn't even feel the need to go in there. She did a great job. I'm gonna miss her. So that was a bright spot of my doctor's office. Some other stuff has happened since then. I'm gonna do a whole nother, actually that's probably gonna be my next pregnancy video about my pregnancy scare and all the nonsense I've had to put up with. Long story short, I have opted to switch. So now I have my first appointment with a midwife at a local hospital. It is a little further, but it's nicer. They have more options. They have midwives who I'm assuming kind of specialize in more natural births, probably give more consideration to your birthing plan. So that's where I'm headed. But these are all things that you want to think about at this point. And, you know, there's no rush. This 9 to 10 months is a long time, okay? Especially that first trimester. So you have time, but it is something you want to start thinking about, especially if you plan on switching doctors. Your usual OBGYN might be cool for a pap smear and checking your boobs every now and then, but you may get to the point and realize that they're not best suited for your birthing plan. Doesn't necessarily make them a bad doctor, but if you guys just don't connect and vibe on what you want for yourself, then it's probably time to start researching other options. With that being said, this is an optional next step. I didn't know that pregnancy Medicaid was a thing, but apparently it's a thing. I assumed that in order to have Medicaid, you had to be completely unemployed. But if you are pregnant, especially if you're not married, because if your spouse makes a certain amount of money, that could affect it, you may qualify for Medicaid. So definitely look into that. Look into WIC, food stamp, whatever you need. There are a lot of things in place for women who are pregnant who may not be able to afford going through a pregnancy otherwise. So definitely look into that. I have heard that some places, I don't know how this works, maybe it depends on your insurance. Some people like actually charge you in advance for your prenatal visits and your delivery. So I think like you get on this payment plan. I've heard it's super expensive. So you definitely want to think about what your options are. As I said, I considered the birthing center. The birthing center would have been about $5,500, which if you compare that to a hospital birth, it's fairly cheap. However, hospital births are covered by insurance. A lot of times the birthing centers are not. Some birthing centers do work with insurance and even take Medicaid. But you know, you just have to weigh your options. It's gonna take some research. Get on Google and get to work, girl. You got 9 to 10 months to figure it out. The next tip I have for you guys is to plan for healthier eating. One of my biggest struggles in this pregnancy has been, I struggle with this outside of pregnancy, but even within pregnancy is like knowing what to eat. Because now not only are you trying to eat at your healthiest because you want to make sure your baby gets all the nutrients that he or she needs, but you have to deal with nausea and food aversion. So like some stuff you might typically enjoy, you might not like anymore. This baby has definitely forced me into eating more fruits and vegetables, which is great. So something that I think if you can kind of plan ahead, especially in those first few weeks when you're not nauseous, take some time and think of some options you can have. Definitely something to think about. Of course, you can't plan, even if you've been pregnant before, you can't really plan how you'll react to certain foods, what's gonna make you nauseous, what's gonna make you feel better. I do think if I knew that I would be nauseous for so long, that maybe I could have given more. There are a lot of foods that I forgot, like I didn't even cross my mind to eat until I had the opportunity to have them, and I was like, oh yeah, I can stomach this. So it may help to just have, you know, different options in mind for breakfast, different options for lunch, different options for dinner, so that, you know, you could do the thinking and planning up front and won't have to worry about it on the spot, and that won't be added stress. This is also important if you live with someone else, whether it be your husband, your boyfriend, whoever, because how they eat, as we all know, impacts how you eat. So if they're eating crazy stuff that stank to you, it's gonna be a struggle. So if you kind of plan ahead, kind of have that conversation, how are we gonna work this out? It can't hurt. And my final tip is to do your research. Now this is gonna be an ongoing thing throughout your pregnancy, of course. Hit Google, that's obvious. Anytime I have a question about anything, I'm on this thing like searching everything, even scenarios that I'm not even in, like just in case. Let me know what goes down with the C-section. Let me know what preeclampsia is. Let me know what gestational diabetes is. Google has it all. Also look into different pregnancy books. I know a very popular book that a lot of people start out with is What to Expect When You're Expecting. I remember my mom reading that book like way back. I think she was probably pregnant with Kia, so that had to be about 25 years ago. It's a very popular book. Seems like everyone reads it. I read the reviews on Amazon, and some of them were just kind of like, I don't know. All of the reviews weren't that great, and I wanted to make sure I got something very science-based and scientific, and that's when I found this book. This is by Mayo Clinic, and it's their guide to a healthy pregnancy. This has been really good. You don't have to read it all the way through. All I do is like whatever I'm going through at the time I need to look up, I'll look up. And then also each week I'll go and see like, oh, what's going on with the baby this week? What's going on with my body? Blah, blah, blah. So this has been a great source. And then also because I do want to do an unmedicated birth, I want this to be as, I don't want to say natural because some people take offense to that, but I want to have an unmedicated birth. I want it to be as knowledgeable as possible about what my options are. So I bought Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. Have not gotten through it yet. The beginning is mostly like birthing stories that people are sharing, which is cool because you get to hear about different types of experiences. And I think towards the back it gets more to like the nitty gritty of childbirth and how that works. It's by Ina May Gaskin, who used to work at this place called The Farm, which was like some kind of hippie commune, I think in the 70s. Something like that. But basically she got into helping the women on the commune give birth. And so, you know, long story short, she became a midwife. So now she's like the mother of all midwives, I guess. It's a very popular book. If you haven't heard about it, a lot of people read this, especially if they're considering an unmedicated, low intervention birth. And another thing you could do that I found super helpful is find a Facebook group. Really anything that you want tips on or you just want to like meet people in similar situations, there's a Facebook group for it, and they're so valuable. Like I really slept on Facebook groups probably until the pandemic. But like I said, there's a group for everything. So there are definitely groups for pregnancy. If you have certain conditions in your pregnancy, if you're high risk, there are groups for that. There might be local groups if you want to meet up with other pregnant women. There are groups based on your age. I'm in a couple of 30 and up pregnancy groups. All that is really helpful because you get to connect with other women who are pregnant. You get to go in there, ask your questions, and get varying, you know, of course you want to know the scientific answers to things, but it's nice to hear other people's like personal experiences. Also, I will warn that it can be triggering. If you are a worrywart, or even if you're not, because you never know how you're going to be in pregnancy, but if you get to the point where you're in a group and like some of the hosts are making you feel anxious or worried, it's okay to leave. It's okay to turn off notifications or just completely leave the group, whatever you need to do. Because people do, of course, come in there and talk about when they find out their pregnancy is high risk, something's wrong with the baby, they've miscarried. There's a lot of that in there too. So if that's something that you think may bother you or, you know, stress you out, it's something to consider. But overall, it's been a really great source for me just to see that like I'm not crazy and I'm not the only one going through this stuff, because there are so many, you know, there are the symptoms that you know about, and then there's the stuff that you would never even imagine. It's just great to know that someone else relates. And my final tip for what to do when you first find out that you're pregnant: don't let anybody make you feel a way about getting your pregnancy stuff before you're even showing or look like you're pregnant or whatever, because you're gonna feel like you're pregnant quickly. If you're anything like me, you're gonna feel like you're pregnant right away. So if you feel like your stomach has grown and you need maternity clothes during your first trimester, do it. I felt like I had a pudge very early on. Couldn't have been baby because baby was about this big, but the bloat was real, and I could have used maternity pants like a lot sooner than I bought them, but because I didn't go anywhere, it didn't really matter. But if you feel like you need maternity pants, go for it. If you need a pregnancy pillow, get it. I got my pregnancy pillow, I don't even think I was out of my first trimester yet, and I didn't really have a baby bump, but my stomach felt weird. I was bloated all the time. When I laid on my side, it kind of felt like my stomach was pulling to one side or the other. It was very uncomfortable, and that pregnancy pillow, I've been saying like I might sleep with the pregnancy pillow long after the pregnancy is over because it is just heaven. I love it so much. I'll put a link in the description box for the pregnancy pillow that I have. Some people say they don't like the pregnancy pillow. If you run hot, you might not like it because it does. I even get hot with it sometimes. You can't just assume that you can sleep with it the way you see in the picture and that's gonna work for you. You gotta like bend and turn that thing up into right where you need it, because sometimes I want to sit up at an angle because I have acid reflux. So I'll bend one side back behind my back and sleep like that. Sometimes you want to be able to lay your stomach on it so you pull the side. Like there are so many different things you could do with the pillow. I love it. All that to say, if you feel like you need it, get it. Don't feel ridiculous, because sometimes people can't see what's going on with you, but you can feel it. And what matters the most is that you are comfortable. Those are my 6 tips. 6 tips that I have for you when you first find out you're pregnant. If there's anything that I've missed, I'm sure there's a ton of other things you could do, but if there's anything that I missed, mommies, leave me some comments below. Give us some tips and share with us. If you like this video, of course, give it a thumbs up. If this is your first time here or you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell for more pregnancy videos, and of course hair tutorials and vlogs and all that good stuff. And until the next video, peace.